nervous, very cocky guy. So I asked them what do they want me to talk about, and they said, well, talk about, being a Caldwell growing up in Chapel Hill. So I had a little bit different experience growing up, I guess, because all the ancestors had laid the groundwork before. So MLK said, I have a dream that one day white kids and black kids could be together. So growing up in Chapel Hill, I've never saw color. Maybe because I was Edwin, he was Neil. So I never was raised, in a segregated environment. I never saw color. I don't know why. Maybe they kept me sheltered. And then, so I want to talk about growing up. My grandfather worked at the Deke House. It was right across from Carolina Inn for 50 years. So he used to make me get up at 6 o'clock in the morning in the summer and go sweep, mop, clean. But he had been there 50 years. He had a great relationship with all the Deke guys. And I never put it together. And those Deke guys really loved him. They loved him so much. If you look at the Deke House now, they have his name on front of the building. Brother Edwin Caldwell. I think he's the only black Deke in the whole nation. It's a true story. And if you go to the bar, because I guess he liked to drink a lot and make drinks, it's called Eddie Caldwell's Bar. So it comes full circle because he used to tell me stories that he said, you ever heard of Hanes underwear? I said, yeah, he wants to sell. He said, yeah, I knew Hanes underwear. I drove him in his car, shiny shoes, ballin' piano. He knew him real well. Mr. Ruger, that has a rifle company, sent him a rifle every year. And it was just amazing the work that he did for these guys. So being there 50 years, each Deke would bring their son and turn them over to my granddad, and their son to their granddad and their son. So he developed a lot of relationships at the Deke House, even though he was a janitor, but they didn't treat him like a janitor, they treated him like a brother. So one time, way back when my dad was about 5 years old, they used to all tell him to go get alcohol in Baltimore. So he said, I'm gonna be smart, I'm gonna go on the weekend and get some alcohol, and then when they asked me to go get alcohol, I could stay in the bed for 3 or 4 days. So he went up and got alcohol, big car. I guess he had drunk some of it, he was kind of drunk. So in Denwoody, Virginia, the cops stopped him. And they said, well, what do you have in the car? He said, I have alcohol. He said, oh, okay, well, we're gonna put you in jail. And he said, okay, what are you gonna do with my son? He was 5 years old, my dad. He said, we're gonna put him in jail also. And he said, well, don't I get a phone call? He said, yeah, you get a phone call. So he said, I'm gonna call the Secretary of the Army. And they said, this guy's drunk. Secretary of the Army. So, make a long story short, he got on the phone, called the Secretary of the Army, Mr. Royal, because I think he was a Deke. And he said, Mr. Royal, this is Eddie Caldwell from the Deke House. You know I don't drink any liquor. I've never drank liquor in my life. They got me here in Denwoody in jail, me and my son. He said, Eddie, put the judge on the phone. And it just so happened the judge was a Phi Delta or something like that. And they let him go. They gave him a note. They said, to the highway patrolman, take Eddie to North Carolina line. Then when he got to the North Carolina line, they gave him to the highway patrolman from North Carolina. And I don't know if the note said, Granddad said, don't mess with Eddie. So it was a full circle. And then my dad, and talk about my dad, I guess he was like a civil rights activist. But I was just a little kid, so like you said, you just don't know anything. So he was on a school board for 12 years. I think he was a chair of the school board for 12 years. Also, I think Chapel Hill was going through a progressive area, so they asked him to be the 4th member of the Chapel Hill Tennis Club. I think the Chapel Hill Tennis Club was just starting, so he became the 4th member of the Chapel Hill Tennis Club. Also, being the 4th member, they asked him to join a church, and they started a church. I think the church, what church? Was that the big church y'all do? So
the Bible church.
Yeah, the Bible church. So the church wanted to integrate, whites and blacks. It's called the Church of Reconciliation. So they asked them to to become part of that. And I think there's some meet in Phillips school. So you know, I never really saw, you know, white, black. I just saw people. And then in 1970, I remember, I must have been about 8 or 9, Dean Smith decided to integrate the basketball team with Charlie Scott. So Charlie Scott was from New York, and you know, it was just a rough time. So Charlie Scott actually stayed with us for like a semester and during the summer. 1970, we had the first black mayor, which was Howard Lee. So my dad was very active in that campaign for him to become a mayor. So, you know, I don't think he ever even with me. He would always give me lectures because he was a chemist. You know, he was the type of guy that would proofread a copy. You get the copy and then they'll proofread that. So I said, Dad, can you just spank me, man? You know, I don't want to just, you know, he would just lecture. You know, always give me chores. He was way before his time. And that's how I got into tennis. You know, I think he got into tennis. So I used to live almost at the Champion Tennis Club during the summer, trying to get better, and that's how me and Neil became such good friends. And back then, I remember we used to go to tournaments, and we used to stay at people's houses.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? Greensboro?
Nashville, remember the one?
Nashville, you know.
Gigantic.
Yeah, so
with
back
bronze.
then, right, they were like, oh, got a white and black team here, oh, but it was never none of that. So it was just a great experience growing up in Chapel Hill. And when I got out of tennis, I got into Kirby vacuum cleaners. And I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I'm gonna bring it full circle. So selling vacuum cleaners door to door, knocking on people's door. I said, well, I want to go to the biggest neighborhood, the biggest houses there were. And I don't know if you ever tried to knock on people's door. Oh, no. And then all of a sudden, you know, the biggest house in the neighborhood, I knocked on the door, lady came to the door, and I don't know if I had my name tag on, and she said, Eddie Caldwell. I said, yeah, I'm from Chapel Hill. He said, Eddie Caldwell, is your granddad work at Peak House? Yes. Hold on, let me call my husband. She called her husband, and he remembered my granddad, and he said, hey, how much are the machines? I said, they're $1,800 a piece. He said, well, I'll write a check for 10 of them. I'll buy 10 of them. And it's just that type of life, you know, growing up in Chapel Hill. So I think, you know, when I think about MLK, I think that this is the place that he would try to want whites, blacks. It ain't always been perfect, but in my life, I've never been black, white. You've just been a person. So I can appreciate Chapel Hill for that. And I appreciate everybody coming out. I appreciate Emil coming out, but I didn't know you could speak that well, you know. I appreciate Leon. So my grandfather and his mother were like best friends. He used to go over there every single day, but Leon was a little bit older than me, so I didn't really know him. And, you know, Leon was very smart. His sister was very smart. I think Pam went to Duke when she was 16 years old, and Leon became a federal judge and a retired judge, so all of them done real well. In fact, if you go to Hillsboro, his father is Standback Elementary. So all of them did really well. So I appreciate the family, I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you very much.